We need better balance. This is where I'm getting at. Michael, you know this. We need greater balance in the world of contribution of AI at the same time being mindful of safety. If we want to continue to innovate the way that we're innovating for the past 15 years, we need to put safeguards in society so people can afford our products.
Our relationship with technology is evolving rapidly. As AI is changing businesses and reshape our world, what does the future hold?
Hi there, welcome to my channel. I'm Michael Coppola. I'm really excited to have you here. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Together, let's explore the incredible potential of entrepreneurship, business innovation, and technology to take your ventures to the next level. Hi everyone, thank you very much. I'm excited today to have Christopher Lafayette, CEO and founder of Getaverse and co-founder also Just Verify, and I think also different venture that probably now Christopher is going to give us a bit more of an introduction. And so Christopher, yeah, if you want to give us a bit more about your background and also how your journey is take you to found these companies.
So first and foremost, I'm very happy to be here with you, dear Michael, and I hope that you've been well. I'm certainly happy to be a part of this experience and the opportunity to be able to express, as stated, I'm Christopher Lafayette, international, national speaker and emerging technologist and humanitarian founder of Getaverse, where we really have taken on the mission of humanizing technology one global conversation at a time. We do that through humanity first standards, with consideration of accessibility and education and community development, equality and safety, privacy, wellness, ethics. And I'm also the founder of Hyper Policy, which we deal and confront policy at an accelerated clip when it comes to equipping those in legislation and policy on the better direction on how to move fast as we see ascendant and emerging technologies come about. And I'm also the co-founder of Just Verify and a host of other platforms. We're really focused on universal verification systems. I'm architecting and building presently about 14 different AI models and working on a number of different platforms in the world. And I'm looking forward to sharing more about a lot of these endeavors with you.
Yeah, thanks, Christopher, for your introduction. And so, what inspired you to this mission to humanize technology?
Yeah, sure. Because we need to. I think it's essential when we think about the extension of reality itself. If we're going to extend reality, then we must bring reality with it. And when I think about the opportunity to develop and build in the ways that we're able to, that many of our predecessors have never had the opportunity to be able to do such when it comes to the throes, if you will, of innovation, I think about the opportunity to look at it holistically of the opportunity that we're afforded in innovation for human betterment and more, but mainly and chiefly to insert with the absolute necessity that we need better standards and protocols that will ultimately influence and scale better outcomes for humanity as a whole. And until we put in mechanisms and until we put in sound policy, our innovations will never be as great as they can be until everyone is afforded the opportunity to culturally contribute to that. I understand that we're moving at an accelerated clip. I'm an accelerationist. I'm not unfamiliar with hyperscaling. I get that, especially here in Silicon Valley. But we need to also take in consideration the ever importance of moving fast, ethically, and with safety in mind.
Yeah, I think it's a really current discussion, right? Also, understanding the balance between going fast but also safely, right? So what's the best way to do it? The US way to go super fast, and or European, they don't innovate and they regulate. So yeah, it's probably finding a balance between these two. What do you think is the right compromise to have that between innovation and humanity first and also safety? Yeah.
I think two things could be true at the same time. I think
Yeah.
Europe's done a terrific job with the consideration of oversight, but I do think that Europe overregulates. How can you regulate what you haven't innovated? I think they need to get heavier into innovation. I'm glad to see that they're allocating more deal flow and capital, but Europe is severely behind in comparison and contrast to much of the world, if you will, when it comes to innovating. There are incredible platforms like Mistral, if you will, in France that are doing great advances when it comes to artificial intelligence in particular. UK is doing terrific in some ways, but they're not moving fast enough.
Do you have anyone in mind in the UK? I mean, there's DeepMind, but is
Sure, that's the
US
top.
is US yeah,
That's
but
the
it's
top of the
US
list.
yeah, but it's US owned company at the end. So what
Just
other
just because something's U.S. owned, it doesn't mean that it's still not taking from the cultural centricity of where it's at geocentrically.
Yeah, no, no. In fact, I mean, the roots of Google DeepMind are from the UK. I mean, it's born here. Then Google bought it, right? I think is that. So at the end, yeah, it's UK born company. So
You look at the
yeah,
leadership of Demis Hassabis, he's from the UK. You think about where
yeah,
DeepMind is. DeepMind is originally started without Google. Google just acquisition
yeah, exactly.
DeepMind back in, if I'm not mistaken, 2015. So you look at that. There's incredible culture that's being contributed to the development and the deployment and hyperscaling of these models. Europe is a better place from my experiences of spending a lot of time in Europe. I think it's fantastic when it comes to the ethical governance structures. I think it's fantastic when it comes to safety and protocol. I think it's fantastic with consideration of privacy. It's a wonderful platform to be able to, in terms of the continental platform, to be able to lead the way when it comes to deterrence, autonomy, when it comes to identity, when it comes to sovereign identity. All of that's going to matter more so than us just here in Silicon Valley hyperscaling and building models and spending tremendous amounts of risk capital, which is great. In incredible ways, it's great. But we have to have balance, and every single continent and culture on Earth contributes uniquely to innovation. So it's not a matter. It's not really take away the word Europe, take away the word America, take away China or Asia. Think about it from a cultural centricity perspective. Then I think you'll find a better opportunity for us to be able to contribute. And if we looked at this with a global lens perspective, everyone could benefit substantially, because at the end of the day, it's going to have to happen if we're going to have AI be successful. What are the success metrics of AI? In an AI arms race, which some people don't like to call it, but that's exactly and precisely what it is. In an AI's arms race, who wins? What is the key performance indicator that entails that we have won AI? Is it AGI? Is it subsequent self-aware? Is it theory of mind? Is it superintelligence? Is it safe superintelligence? What is that? If you look at a lot of those that are some of the key foundation architects of the type of scale that we're seeing with deep mind and neural networks, a lot of them aren't all American born. Some of them are in Europe. Some of them are natively from Europe, in the Middle East, and elsewhere. So really, we start thinking about Silicon Valley and the United States as a nation of immigrants. We've been having the big debate out here about H-1B visas. Think about the overall contribution. It's already global competent. That's why Silicon Valley does so well, because we have so much cultural contribution here from people that come from so many different places, and we move really fast. That's our inheritance. That's in terms of our successors, our eldership. And so technology is what we do. And I say our inheritance in terms of in business, what we've been handed down from generation to generation. However, when you look at Europe, Europe's done a fantastic job in signaling the necessary awareness. I noticed that Paris Summit went from Safety Summit to Action Summit, which I support. I think it's a great thing. But don't forget safety.
Yeah, I mean, living in Europe, we have to consider that we are slowing down more than U.S. So this is people are feeling that slowdown. So this is, yeah, we had to discuss. Yeah, okay, regulating, okay, but why now U.S. is much more is growing at a much faster pace with respect to the rest of the world, and I mean, we are suffering for that here in the UK. So and we probably would like to see more innovation in that side. We would like to see more investment. Investment here in UK have been dropped by 50%. Venture capital since 2020, 50%. So it is incredible, this law of innovation that now we have seen here. So what we can do also, yes, I agree about safety regulation, but we also have to think about how we can grow and have a good life, everyone, and prosper as a society.
Sure, I agree with that. When you kind of take a step back and to look forward, on one hand, we're seeing the incredible deployment of capable models, extended chain of thought reasoning models. We're looking at larger context windows. When we think about the risk capital that's deployed here in the United States, it's always been, for some time, I would say always, in the sense of the past 15, 20 years, it's been extensive. And our research dollar deal flow, public and private contributions and investments have been substantial over the years. And the same thing could be said especially within the past 10 years with China, if you will. They innovate at a rapid pace in Shenzhen and Hunan, Beijing, Shanghai. And when I think about the European ecosystem, though, a lot of platforms are tied into what public sector can give them when it comes to European Commission and where it comes to other. And I remember sitting in Italy some years ago, and it was asked of me in this meeting, what do you perceive the strength of Europe is and the weakness of Europe is when it comes to innovation? And my reply is that the strength of Europe is its heritage. Europe has a culture of development and build that's better than almost just that's best first in class in the world. Europe understands intimately how to make and how to build, and the construct. I mean, history suggests that from the times of the Grecians and the Romans, if you will. When you look at my perceived understanding of Europe when it comes to the weakness, it's the complacency. Because many generations in Europe, especially the older ones, have a favorability of hospitality and tourism. And they have not given nearly as much, if you will, in terms of support and infrastructure for innovation, so that they can expand tourism and so that they can expand hospitality and more. And that's held people back. The private lending, private investments has not been a first-in-line action when it comes to the EU. When it comes to safety standards and protocol, Europe is always the quickest to object when it comes to a new technology that's made here in the United States. and deployed around the world or in China. Europe is the first to object. I think Europe needs to go from to less regulation because I think they're over-regulating. I think they need to get to innovation so that they can regulate even better their own sovereign technology. I think right now is the best time for sovereign identity, sovereign technology when it comes to AI infrastructure and development. All the tools are there to be able to do that. And so what we'll find is instead of spending all this time and money in regulating American and Asian products, if you will, why don't you spend that time in innovating and building out your own models so that we can even draw an appreciation for what it is that you built, because that strengthens the entirety of the ecosystem of artificial intelligence and extended reality and other different technologies and platforms. Once we have global contribution, we need better balance. This is where I'm getting at. Michael, you know this. We need greater balance in the world of contribution of AI at the same time being mindful of safety. I'm building the world's largest universal interpreter right now. This never existed before. We're studying the performative behavior of the AI models, open source and closed source. We're working on that. We meet in London at the end of London into April with a major private roundtable talking about universal verification. Those are some of the things that we're dealing with when it comes to Just Verify, because we find it exceedingly more important that decentralized access and to be able to carry with us assistants that are multimodal in its capacity with computer vision that can be able to interpret what we're interacting with when it comes to AI as a whole.
So is it decentralized?
It is decentralized and it will be open sourced.
Okay.
For me, this is a big part of something that I've been working on some time as the author of Universal Interpreter, and with the studying and the findings and what we're doing in lab when it comes to Just Verify and to the overall premise of universal verification, safety, and privacy. It's something that we've been working on for some time, and we feel really good about the steps that we're taking, especially with some major platforms that we haven't revealed yet that we're working with right now in Europe, as a fact. And we're really excited, and this is why we're having our first roundtable in Europe as well. We have our
amazing.
my
So
colleague and
you're
co-founder.
gonna be in London in April?
Yes.
Yeah,
In
give me a shout, man. Yeah.
March 31st and into April, we have a major roundtable. I announced it briefly at the beginning of the year for the new year, but we're going to be here, and myself and my colleague Russell Bundy, if you will, and Cristiano Vaughn and others that are going to be there. We have so many different leaders that are going to assemble with us to have this very candid, transparent discussion on the premise of universal verification, and we'll be able to share our universal interpreter, if you will, in roundtable, then subsequently to the world.
Yeah, I agree. Also, especially on the decentralization, I think there is probably a bit too much concentration of power of the internet. I mean, this technology, they are really can capture so much of economic value that they centralize a lot of power. Facebook, Google, they really centralize a lot this power, and this is why a lot of decentralized platform, they could offer a solution to this this problem. There is this centralization of power of internet, and the only thing I think there is not enough aware of this issue, right? So, and we as a collective society, we should take a step by understanding that choosing a decentralized platform instead of a centralized one is challenging many times. So how can we do that? How are we ever gonna get there? Or are decentralized power always be controlling the most of the of the world? Because AI as well is a really centralized technology. as you can see, I mean, but there are many different small ones now. They are growing, right? Many other competitors on OpenAI, by still really capturing a lot of the value. And if we don't redistribute the value on the society, how is gonna end?
It, I think there's more decentralized open source AI at the contrast of billionaire backed, multi-billionaire backed AI right now. I think we have too much dependency on governments. I think we have too much dependency on multi-billion dollar conglomerates and enterprises. There's, I'm a huge fan of a number of different AI platforms in the world on the science level that they're doing incredible work. DeepMind and OpenAI, in particular. When I think, and there's more. But when I think about the dependency and thinking about autonomy back to sovereign foundational development and construct, I'm more keen, if you will, on the ideas of open, decentralized empowerment when it comes to our founders in this world, of all the things that they can build and to be able to distribute out. I really like protocols as standards. I'm a huge fan of Blue Sky and the AT protocol. I like the idea that I don't have to spend my social time on billionaire-backed platforms, and I like the idea that people can have access and greater democratized access than ever before, and innovating and creating their own platforms. But it's obviously hard when it comes to marketing these platforms, but often cream rises to the top. Good built community-based platforms in particular organically can travel and carry really well, and it can lead to being sustainable. It's not as to say to protest against using these platforms. I never want to take that line of protest when it comes to supporting innovations. I've used Grok XAI, if you will. I think it has a lot of fantastic use cases that other models don't have. And so the ingenuity is incredible to see. The same thing could be said for DeepSeek and other platforms that I see people using. But at the same time, there's some AI platforms that I don't support, that I don't use. It just depends on who built it. But I am a huge fan of American-based AI. I've explored much of China-based AI, and believe it or not, I'm really a fan of what Europe's approach to AI, because I feel like the humanitarian side of me identifies and relates with that more when it comes to, as somebody that was, partially raised in my formative years in Europe, as someone that has spent substantial time and has great, really strong ties to Europeans, I understand that when it comes to what Europe uniquely contributes to the world, ethically, I feel like in some ways, believe it or not, where many people will not agree with what I'm about to say, I think in some ways, if we had to look and say who's really leading AI, in some ways it's Europe. Hear me out. Because Europe has done the best job in the world of helping let us know the dangers of the potential threats and how to cognitively approach artificial intelligence. They've done it really well when it comes to alarming us about misinformation, disinformation, and the third of the ecosystem of information. When I think about some of the ethicists that I've spent time with, they've really caused us to think further on how we use these modern innovations. What Silicon Valley has done the best in the world is deploy the most capable models. But does that mean that that's a multivariable equation? No, it's a single variable equation when it comes to who really is leading. to me, the people that lead in this world take in great consideration of safety first. And when you say that, here in the United States, we're extremely, as we should, big on deterrence and defense, which is important. And here in the United States, we do practice safety first. If you're going to lead in this world, safety first has to matter. Defense and deterrence has to matter. Else you're not leading in this world. You're just building machines. You're building machines, but you're not taking the consideration ultimately of safety. That's what makes the difference when it comes to. So my American interpretation of American first, which is part of the new mantra, if you will, of this country, is safety first. And you can do both things. You can hyperscale and accelerate and still be safe at the same time without holding back innovators that want to build, that want to express at a rapid clip. You can do both at the same time. Unfortunately, there's so much politics on both sides of the aisle here, on Democrat and Republican sides, where there are those that want to slow down the innovation and build. I'm an acceleration. I think we need to move as fast as, in fact, I think we're not moving fast enough. I think we need to get ahead of AI itself before it comes recursive in its training and its learning scale and auto, if you will, of automata. So when it comes to the practicality of it all, the reality of it all, I believe that our political leaders in this country are getting bad information from those that so-called understand AI. I think to really understand artificial intelligence is also to understand the fuller spectrum of ethical governance structures and safety, and what it means on the innovative scale, on the technology or the applied science side of things. Then you can make a fuller contribution that could be great and fantastic and lead. And so, with that said, I believe it's advantageous for Europe and America to unite and to collaborate and to do incredible things that we can move fast and efficiently and have a really great success model. Because we still have to think that there are other governments in this world that don't align with our values. We're closely aligned with Europe in terms of geostates. We are. North America and Europe have had incredible relationships in trade for years, but we've also had great trade relationships with China and Asia. I think countries really need to understand and take a really step forward in saying this: if there was ever a time that we were going to collaborate on the innovative scale, it's now. Now is the time to be able to do it, because Asia contributes incredible men and women power and ingenuity. Surely, if by their population and their numbers, then America and Europe combined, they have that, and it's dramatic. So we need to listen to hear what they have to say so that can contribute to the overall growth and success of what we all can do. But if we're only interested in raising deal flow and capital and who has the bigger investments and who controls AI, then you're going about that the wrong way, because ultimately AI will be controlled by the people in decentralized states and not centralized states. Centralization will not win.
Yeah, I completely agree. And as you said before, we probably should have better success metric. So it seems like that, yeah, as a countries, or organizations, sometimes we miss out in what are the right metrics of success. What is growth or health? What exactly is, so that we can, set up for that and achieve it, right? Because now it seems like many times we always talk about GDP growth, right? But does that reflect with the happiness or fairness of the countries, right? Does that reflect that? It doesn't seem that many times they don't care about different metrics than just growth, right? So, what do you think about that? How could be we should have different metrics for measuring success of a whole country? How do you think about that?
Michael, that's a really good question. And that's one of the reasons why we're having more discussions about these things together to figure out what do we want from this. A lot of people will boil it down to universal basic income or universal basic services without really great solution. What I do take exception to when it comes to some of the, I guess, so-called leaders of AI in this world that lead these large companies is that a lot of them have these utopian considerations of the world. And I think they are so far removed in this way of thinking. I think it's a hustle. I think it's manipulative. I think it's ignorant. I think it's ignorant for them to say that we'll have utopian considerations in many years to come. They don't understand the full breadth of it. And I think it's a salesmanship point that they put out there that's not grounded in reality. Because you still have to take in consideration the evilness of the hearts of men. And AI cannot make that better and eradicate that. With the level of technical disruption that we find ourselves heading in, there's no replacement, there's no alternative solutions yet. But there are some being developed. There are some that we're looking at, and some companies that I'm advising that there are really smart thinkers out here in this world that are thinking about what are the next steps in the succession of civilization and how we go on when we're no longer doing the same jobs that we're used to doing, especially when you think about, in some ways, the intellectual workforce and the labor workforce. The intellectual workforce is starting to see the implications of these capable agentic models that are out here in the world versus the physical labor force. They're not as strict as that. In fact, a lot of people that are part of the intellectual labor force are going to have to work in the labor workforce. But once we have the capable robots and semi-conscious machines, if you will, that will start to be able to work in this world and be able to do things in labor, you can perceive having whole 24/7 construction work crews that are building, that don't sleep, that work day and night through the rain, that work consistently in building out infrastructure in this world in the built environment. And so how do you contend with that? How do you compete with that? You don't. Unless you want to keep it human, then the numbers will not justify that. And so we have to start thinking ecologically, and the whole idea of the consideration of sustainability, currency, buy, sell, and trade. We have to start thinking about working and building. I believe that if we go back and look at agrarian principles on how they were able to grow their food, how they are able to create sustainable environments, not always completely with capital, but thinking about going back to first principles, because how do you pay all these bills? How do you pay and satisfy all these needs that are required of you financially if you have no job to go to whatsoever and you have no way to earn? And many people that are part of the intellectual foundation and construct in this world that work behind computer screens and desktop tablets and laptops and head-mounted displays, how do you now look at them when many of them do not have work, if you will, whether we're working in SaaS or 3D artists or designs or developers, engineers and so forth and so on?
Yeah,
What will they do? Think about this, Michael. What will
yeah,
they do?
I do think about that. Yeah,
Everybody
often
can't be a
I've been,
consultant.
yeah, I've been, yeah, researching. I've been read a couple of books about, the impact of AI. So I do have a view into the future, and but I do think we don't know what we don't know. So I mean, there is things that as we evolve, there's gonna be economic opportunity that we are gonna do that we
Will there
at the
be?
moment
Will
that
there be?
we don't know it yet, but they will come out as we go up. I understand there is gonna be maybe a lot. There is gonna be probably a moment where there is gonna be a lot of displacement, but I think there is gonna be also, if we are able to adapt, we will do it. I mean, it seems economy always been done. So if you see the last 60 year, it's
That's
been
why you
adapting.
have to go further back. You have to go further back. You have to go for. You can't judge where we're headed now based on what we've seen in the industrial age 1 and 2. You can't do it. You cannot do that where we're headed now. The whole entire foundational premise on how we operate as a society has been solely experienced from industrial age 1 and 2. You cannot use that as the complete metric to say we've always had a way forward. That is not the way forward. That's how they thought in the agrarian age. That's how they thought in the agrarian age, from agrarian farming age, from
Yeah, but
agrarian to industrial.
have you in 1990s, have you imagined all the job opportunity that the new technological, the internet have been created in the next 30 years?
Of course.
Could
Of
you
course.
have think about
Of
that?
course. Of course.
No,
Of
we
course.
didn't. We
No,
didn't.
oh, we did.
We
We
were
did.
we
We
were
did.
we were.
We did. Because the 90s were the information age. And what happens when you give people information? They begin to apply that information. That's what led us into the applications renaissance. It was always the intent to be able to take from the 90s, even preceding to the 90s and the prototypical generation age of the 80s, and saying we're going to put this to market and bring this thing called the internet. That's why technology moves in increments, shifts, and leaps. You look at Web 1, Web 2. We didn't realize.
Yes, no, I agree, but we didn't know many jobs that at the moment exist. Yes, we knew internet, but we don't know there are so many jobs the internet created. YouTubers, influencer, there is thousands of jobs that we I don't think we ever imagined.
Wait,
before.
but Michael, you have to look at that further. You're looking at it in terms of what's temporary. First of all, people don't have 20-year jobs like they used to anymore. They don't have 10-year jobs like they used to anymore. You have to look at this further because Uber disrupted taxi cabs, right? But when I was in San Francisco last night, I saw more Waymo vehicles with no humans in it than I did Uber and Lyft combined together. What does that mean?
Yeah,
That technology continues. Wait. What happens to all those drivers? What happened to the taxi? There are no taxi drivers, if you will, anymore in San Francisco to that degree. Uber and Lyft drivers are being, so all those jobs are being taken over because what happens is that AI can see this work that you do in all these jobs and it says, I can do that. Michael, it says, I can do that. Oh,
I
you
do
can farm?
agree.
I can do
I
that.
I agree.
You can make a 3D
I'm not
world? I can do
saying that
that.
we don't have to talk about. I'm not
Sure.
saying that we don't have to talk about, and there probably will be a struggle for many people. But I'm also saying we don't know what we don't know. We don't know everything. We
4,000
don't know.
4,000 people just got laid off at Meta on Monday. 4,000 people just got laid off in Meta on Monday. Did you know that?
No,
You
4,000.
see, go look it up. It's all in the news. See, this is what I'm saying, Michael. When you
Yeah,
talk about the 90s,
we
to
need
me,
new
the
economic
90s,
models. Yeah,
the 90s, I lived in that during the bubble. And I saw what happened when we began to innovate in the 90s. And then we reached the Silicon Valley bubble and the bubble burst. This is not uncommon. The bubble burst because we ran the internet startups with industrial age way of thinking. And we had a bubble, it grew, and it burst. And you know what happened? That ultimately led to the recession that we had. And it wasn't until people like Steve Jobs came out in September 2007 and said, I want to introduce you to iPhone and an application ecosystem. Applications already existed, if you will, before iPhone. But what Steve Jobs and the other innovators here in Silicon Valley created a way for us to be able to democratize access so that we can be builders and developers. And Apple said, you can come to our Apple store, we want 30%. Google came in and said, we're going to do the same thing. And Google said, we're going to give you free email. We're going to give you free G-Docs. We're going to give you free Google Sheets. We're going to give you free, but we want your data, number one. Because here in Silicon Valley, it's freemium traction, adoption, scalability, freemium adoption, traction, scalability, multinational. Free wasn't always so free. But they created and centralized social ecosystem that constructs ways for us to be able to communicate faster, use cloud faster. How many of us use Telegram and WhatsApp and Signal? We don't pay money to use Telegram, WhatsApp, and Signal, but you are paying something to use Telegram, WhatsApp, and Signal.
Yeah,
Oh, yes.
anyway, I do agree with you. There's going to be a lot of displacement. I'm just saying we don't know also how many places it's going to create. We know there's going to be
Michael, we can't do that,
difficulties.
but we can't
There
think
is
like
going to be
that.
difficult. We maybe going to have a universal income. We had to have new economic models, but also we don't know how many opportunity we create, right? So because it will create.
But Michael, if there's an
I mean,
80%, if there's
robots they need also maintenance, right?
But Michael, if
They're
there's
not
an
going to
eighty
work by
percent
themselves.
decline, if there's an 80% decline but a 20% increase, what does that mean? We can't afford to. We can't afford to sit here. We can't afford to sit here and say, "Let's just see what." We can't do that, Michael. Michael, we have to take. If it's not us, then who? Or we're supposed to give our children and our youth and say, You guys figure it out." We don't know what's to come. And that's the problem in the world of complacency. We sit there and wait for other men and women to build what we have in our own hearts to build. We have
No,
the
in fact,
capacity.
in fact, we are building a platform that is focusing also on helping small, medium businesses, individual monetize. So because we do care about that and we see it coming. So yeah, we are working towards that. So it's not that we are not doing. Yeah, we see
But this is
new economic models generated by agent, and we want to help individual to help monetize agent. So this is a project we're working on. So yeah, we are actively working on.
here's the deal. A lot of people are actively working on things. But the real truth is that when you're looking at the coming wave that Mustafa Solomon talks about, most founders, most corporations, most companies, most people are not prepared for the coming wave. And the impact can be so substantial that we sit here and listen, whenever you have something that's in a regenerative state, there's a degenerative state. And it's easy for us to sit here behind YouTube and different microphones and Riverside. It's easy for us to say, well, there's going to be a lot of loss, but there's also going to be gain of opportunity. But nobody provides timelines, and nobody provides specific key examples of that. And nobody understands, and what we have underestimated.
So what would you do?
That's a good question. No. Here's the answer. Universal basic income, when it comes to federal governments giving us money to sustain to pay the bills, is never going to happen. It's federal governments don't have enough money, Michael. We have to think about the key things that we need in life. We need shelter, we need food, we need beverage. Think about this. Brother, just walk with me for a second on this. If we take Netflix, we take content creation, we take all of this, within 5 to 10 years, AI will be able to build this right here with its own self, its own creative engines. Netflix will be disrupted unless they get into the game. Amazon Prime, all these different platforms. We have to look at a completely different way of living in life. One that is sustainable. One where I'll find myself getting up to work for a meal and to keep a roof over my head, but it can't be completely currency. We have to start thinking about that, because if we're not making money, how can we pay anybody? And how can anybody pay anybody else if they're not able to sell the goods that they have? We have to start thinking about ecocentricity. We have to start thinking about biodiversity and development of scale. I'm sorry to say, but a lot of people that are building startups today, the majority of them are failing already, and they do not know, and they're building based on the so-called promise of what can be adopted, but they never realized that the foundation in which we're innovating and building on now is unstable. That's the reality. How do we come together? We come together and we collaborate with Europe and the United States, and we say, listen, if we want to continue to innovate the way that we're innovating for the past 15 years, we need to put safeguards in society so people can afford our products. But when you get tens of thousands of people that are losing their jobs, they can't afford to pay to use what we innovate to build. That's why you see Jan LeCun saying, listen, we're going to open source this, and OpenAI you're paying $20 to $200 a month. But the AI models that are in Hugging Face are capable.
Yeah,
Free.
there is also another theory. A lot of people are saying that, if you're going to have so much digital labor and robotics really cheap, in theory, prices of services, goods and services, is going to drop. So what now it costs to live 50,000 here, in 10 years will cost 10,000. So in 10 years, with 10,000 a year, we can live because everything is going to be so cheap. Because if you think now a startup can run in 5 people. In 5 people, you can do everything, right? So you can sell the software with much cheaper. Instead of a £20 subscription, it's going to be 5 or free. And this is something distributed in each services. So that could bring down the cost of everything. And probably with UI, maybe, universal basic income, we could allow to meet that because we'll be so low that everyone could have it. And we have met our basic standard. This is some projection that some people are talking about. Yeah.
I can see that. You know that I do see that. But the big thing that kind of throws that off is living situations. Everybody owns the ones that own property aren't prepared to come down. And I wonder on the migration effect, is this the time in life where we start building in places we've never built before? Because we have the technologies and the material science to support that build. You know, everybody wants to live in California or New York or everybody wants to live in their preferred city. Everybody wants to live in Venice. Everybody wants to live in Verona. Everyone wants to live in Positano. Everyone wants to live in London. People want to live in these places, but what about all these other places in the country and the world that no one wants to live because it really hasn't been inhabitable? I think we have to start thinking about, to your point about the affordability and things coming down. I think to support that, it needs to support the whole premise of that ecologically. That's a roof, that's food, that's wellness. Those things, if we can figure out those things on the geocentric global scale in terms of living, where we live, I think we'll get a whole lot further. Will this take away from the... Let me ask you this, Michael. Can I ask you something? How old is startup culture?
How old is the startup culture?
Startups. How old are startups?
Oh,
The very foundation of startup culture. How old is that? How old do you think that is?
30.
Okay. Let's just say it's that. Let's just say it's 30 years. What happens when there's no more startup culture? You talked about 5 founders can start a company. Peter Diamandis says that 2 founders can launch a billion bad company, and this is true. But let me ask you this. What about 5 robots? No humans. And they don't have a need for risk capital because they got every single thing that they need to build. Here's my point. The only way startup culture survives is either risk capital being distributed, and if the risk capital runs out because the large investments that are going towards compute and infrastructure of AI, if the majority of the risk capital goes out, you can't innovate and build because you can't afford to build, right? So what happens if startup culture is depleted? You know and I know that we'll still innovate, but we'll be innovating under a different set of rules and for much different reasons than what we innovate for now.
Mm.
Will we continue to innovate? We innovate, yes, for startups, but we also innovate for sustainability, that we can go to market and receive compensation for our hard labors and work, and that people can enjoy, so that we can continue to provide them on iterative scale. We have our Google and Apple devices, and we pay for these services, these devices. We pay for Unreal Engine. We pay for Unity. And in turn, they give us good product, and they continue to scale and grow. Right? So if we're talking about in terms of innovation, what are the motivations to innovate in the first place? And if those motivations are gone, then what are we really building, and what are we innovating for now? The only thing that we can and we will innovate for is a way to live, is a way to survive.
Mm-mm. Yeah, I mean, this is why, we had to find some new economic model for businesses, right? So this is why, talking about decentralization, using protocol, that can decentralize application, or using, token as well for redistribute, to build the community, new economic models that we had to talk about. So
That's
that
right.
could.
That's right, Michael. You're hitting a hammer on that. That's right. That's right. That's why we're going to need the founders of the world, such as you, and the brilliant-minded think hive, to do just that. That's why being on this series of yours is so important, because it allows us and enables us to democratize our expression and to share in thoughts together. One person, if you will, Silicon Valley cannot innovate all those. This is why I say that Europe is so important ecologically. It's so important ecologically. Because, listen, if we don't come up with these solutions, you know what it leads to? Crime, war, people will take, people will rob, they will pillage, they will plunder. People will, we've known this to be the history of man. We have to come up with these solutions.
Revolution,
Revolutions, you're right. You're absolutely right. This is true. I know it may seem far-fetched, but I'm like, it's and one of my elders has said, sometimes things don't matter until it comes knocking on your door.
Yeah.
We look at Ukraine. We look at Ukraine and say, man, that's pretty bad. All right, let me go to Starbucks. But Ukraine was a whole technological hub.
Yeah.
We all know this as technologists. Ukraine was one of the most effective and strong technological hubs in the world. They are no longer that. That day is done.
Yeah. Christopher, thank you very much. I want to have just a couple of more questions before we close, as I know we are close to the time.
Yeah, I have a hard stop too, but yes, let's go. I said, yes, I have a hard stop too. It's been a very busy week.
Okay. So do you have any final thoughts that you want to share with us? I think we have been a bit talking about different technology, a bit of your journey. There is anything else that you would like to reiterate as a closing thought?
Sure. I'll reiterate this to all that are joining us with it today, and to say that when it does come to innovation, we are innovating incredibly. I would submit to anyone that's listening here that if you have a desire to innovate, or you're deciding and attempting to find out what's next, AI and XR are the definitive and most lucrative platforms to innovate in the world today. If you're building something in XR or the metaverse, if you're building something in AI, don't just think about those individually, but think about those together as we continue to extend reality. There's never been a better time to become a founder in the world than now. Take advantage of the opportunity to be able to innovate and scale, work and collaborate with people that don't come from where you come from and don't look at things the way that you look at, but build internationally, build globally, and build well with compassion and care for human betterment in mind, making sure that anything that you're building and that you're contributing to the world, imagine how it's not only in the hands of the people that live today, but in the unborn and our children and our youth tomorrow. That's going to make you really start to think more about why. Why are you innovating and building, and for whom? And what does this mean for the families on Earth? Thank you so much, Michael, for being able to spend time with you.
Thank you very much, Christopher. It was really a pleasure speaking with you. And please let me know when you are in London. We'll super be happy to meet you. So
Michael,
give me a shout, please.
We'll invite you to come spend time at the round table. I want you there. Your views are strong. I say this open air. Come spend some time with us.
Amazing.
We'll look into that.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Come spend some time. We'll break good bread together and we'll eat as well, and we'll talk about these things.
Thank you very much, Christopher. Have a good day.
Yes, of course, Michael.
Ciao.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining me on this journey. Together, let's explore the incredible potential of entrepreneurship, business innovation, and technology to take your ventures to the next level.